Welcome to the webinar on education and outreach, where you'll learn about resources, activities, and events to educate your community and recruit new members to your organization. I'm Autumn Crow, staff scientist for West Virginia Rivers Coalition, and I'll be moderating this webinar. West Virginia Rivers is a statewide nonprofit that advocates for clean, drinkable, swimmable, and fishable rivers. I'm joined today by Tommy Bergstrom, West Virginia Department of Environmental Protection, Project WET, and Western Basin Coordinator. She will be presenting on Project WET and water festivals. Also on today's webinar is Amanda Pitzer and Beth Warnick with Friends of the Cheat, and they'll be discussing some of the events they have hosted and their lessons learned. Before we get started, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping items. This webinar is being recorded, and a download of the recording will be sent to you for your reference at a later date. The presenters will be answering questions at the end of the webinar, so you can type your questions into the chat box at any time in the control panel on the right-hand side of your screen. Also in the control panel, you should see handouts. There's several useful handouts available for download, and that can be found under the Handouts tab. How to plan a water festival, a Project WET brochure, as well as the slides presentations from today's webinar. At the end of this webinar, you'll receive a short survey. Please take a few minutes to let us know what you thought of the webinar and if you're interested in hosting workshops or water festivals. And please offer us any suggestions for additional topics or any other suggestions you have to improve future webinars. And before Tommy begins, we'd like to start out with a quick poll to see how many of you have hosted a water festival. So I'll be launching that poll right now, and you'll see it come up on your screen. And if you can just respond to that poll, and that will give Tommy an idea of how many of you have experience with water festivals. And I'll share the results. So it looks like we have 60% that have experience and 40% that don't. So Tommy, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, great. Thanks for the introduction, Autumn. As Autumn said, my name is Tommy Bergstrom, and I do work for the West Virginia Department of Environmental Protection. And I'm here to talk to you about West Virginia's Project WET program. And in West Virginia, DEP sponsors this position. So other states, it might be DOF or a different agency or a university that sponsors that position. See if I can get my slides going here. There we go. So Project WET is water education for teachers. And the whole teachers thing we try not to get too hung up on because we actually work with all different types of educators. And Project WET is international. It's interdisciplinary water science and education program. And as I said, we like to work with all sorts of educators. So if you're somebody that considers yourself to be an educator, you're somebody I want to work with, especially if you're interested in water. So today we'll talk about the mission and overview of Project WET to get you familiar with the program. I'll go down through some different workshops and certifications that are available through Project WET. We'll discuss water festivals and how you can plan them, some of the different program results that we have here in West Virginia, supplies and resources that are available to you, and then who it is that we like to coordinate with. So Project WET's mission in the USA is to reach children, parents, teachers, and community members of the world with water education that promotes awareness of water and empowers community action to solve complex water issues. Now, if you're a watershed group or if you're a community organization, you might have certain things in our mission statement that are relatable. And that's the beautiful thing about water, is that sometimes we have the same goals. So we work to achieve this mission in 4 different ways. The first one is we publish water resource education materials, and I'll talk a little bit about those throughout the webinar. Our newest one is water agriculture and food, and these are for many different ages. They're written in different languages too, so we try to have them adapted for different cultures. We also provide training workshops to educators, and again, if you're somebody that considers yourself an educator, we have a training for you. And we do this for pre-K through 12 educators, so if you're working with any students that age, we have workshops for you. We also organize and inspire community water events, such as water festivals, and I'll go a little bit more in depth in that too. And the main thing is that we want to build this network of educators, and we need all these different backgrounds pulling in together to try to solve these complex water issues. So that's why our partners are so broad. So Project WET began back in 1984, and the curriculum was developed through a collaboration of teachers, scientists, and resource professionals. And when they sat down and started putting activities together, they formulated a booklet. So the first curriculum guide was printed in 1995. And then they said, hey, we got to make sure these are correlated to standards so that our public school teachers are going to be able to use these activities in the classroom. So we have a whole standards team, and they sat down and did a lot of work to correlate all these back to the NGSS standards. And then it also strongly supports STEM principles. In 2011, the project guide had its second edition come out. It's in color, so it's very nice. It also has a lot of online resources that are in it. And this is also correlated to Common Core state standards in 2012. So we tried to cover all of our grounds with making sure those correlations were available to our teachers. And Project WET is international, as I mentioned. So if you go to our website, projectwet.org, and you click on where we are, you can view a map just like this. And so if you zoomed in, for instance, to West Virginia, and you clicked on the little flyer there, it would bring up our DEP website and my information. And Project WET is interdisciplinary. And if you're not, you don't do a whole lot with education, you might not know what that means exactly. And it's simply just that we combine 2 or more academic disciplines into one activity. So within our guidebook, we have over, 70 activities, I believe. And we have many of them that have science, health, and fine arts, or they might have math, science, and social studies, all these different things included in one activity. So to talk a little bit more about the workshops and certification, this is a really big thing that we do. And our most popular workshop that we offer is called the Educators Workshop. And it lasts about 6 hours. So you have to make sure you have that time allotted off. We can always split those 6 hours over 2 evenings, or possibly even 3 if it's not too far to travel. These workshops are engaging, they're motivating, and they're fun. So you're going to leave the workshop feeling inspired about water education and ready to use it. We try to make you very familiar with the curriculum and activity guide. So you yourself will be presenting activities to your peers and becoming very empowered by the guide. We do have a requirement of 10 participants, and the workshops can be designed to meet the needs of specific schools and teachers. So for instance, if we have all lower elementary school teachers, then we can design the workshop to meet their needs. If we're working with high school AP science course teachers, then we can design the workshop to work with their needs. If everybody is with the Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts or 4-H or Watershed group, then we can have the workshop be on a more broader level. All the workshops are free, thanks to DEP. And with the workshop, you get that curriculum guide, looks like this, and a certificate. And you can use the certificate to apply for continuing education credits. Another popular workshop that we offer is Wow, the Wonders of Wetlands. And I have a background in herpetology, so I really enjoy teaching this workshop. The main thing with this workshop is that we need to have a wetland setting. Most of the activities relate directly to going outside and picking up plants or looking at soil types. And so it's really important to have a wetland setting. With this workshop, you do receive the educator guide, Wow, the Wonders of Wetland, and also a certificate. This does require 6 hours of instruction, and it does require at least 10 folks to participate. Our newest workshop is called Getting Little Feet Wet. And in this workshop, we have 2 of them that are available in March if this is something you'd like to attend. One is in Charleston and Parkersburg, and you can email me for more information about those. But this workshop, this curriculum guide, was developed in 2017. And it requires a 2 to 3 hour long workshop, and it's just for our early childhood educators. So specifically educators working with children's ages 3 through 6. And it does have options, so you can do pre-K and you can do K through 2 options. I've got to use these activities a few times, and they are very fun. Other workshops that we offer, one of them is Healthy Water and Healthy People. This workshop is more for stream monitoring and how to set up projects, research projects on streams. And so it ties in directly with one of my colleagues' programs, Save Our Streams. Glenn Nelson's over that. So I'll give him a little plug. We don't do too many Healthy Water, Healthy People workshops because of that reason, because it overlaps a lot with what Glenn's always doing. We do sampler workshops. So if you're having a conference and you have maybe 60 people that you want to introduce to Project WET because you've been trained in it, you're excited about it, and you want more people in your community to be excited about it, I can come in and do a sampler workshop. It takes about 2 hours. We can always be flexible on that time. So we can cover a couple activities, just a sampler packet, and then send folks home with this sampler booklet. If you're interested in teaching or facilitating Project WET workshops, you have to be trained as a facilitator. So the first step is to be certified in our normal educator workshop. After that, it's a 12 additional hours of certification to become a facilitator. If you have the old Project WET guidebook, the one that was in black and white, and you would like a refresher workshop, then you can attend one of our current workshops and we can get you the updated guidebook. We also have and offer advanced workshops for stormwater utilities, MS4s, that type of thing. We also can come in and do a workshop just about water festivals. So if you would really like to have a water festival in your area and you would like to get some folks trained on Project WET activities for water festivals, then we can come in and do a workshop specifically for water festivals. So let's talk about water festivals. We call them Make a Splash with Project WET. And these water festivals are being conducted all across the United States. So it's not just something that we're doing here in West Virginia. So you're definitely part of a broader picture. They are a day-long outdoor event. We target 5th graders for these events, but we can work with 4th or 6th, even 3rd graders. The 5th grader is, that's the best age so far that we've seen to have these outdoor events. The main thing is that these festivals have to be planned at a community level. So I'm certainly not going out to random places in West Virginia and trying to host these festivals all on my own. It takes partners and it takes collaboration. And so wherever we have partners and folks interested in having these, this is where they pop up at. So they take a lot of work, but they are really fun and they're really rewarding to put on. And of course, it's called a water festival, so it is grounded in water science principles. But again, we try to incorporate those multiple disciplinary approaches. So we'll have social studies, geography, math, language arts, that sort of thing, all included in these activities as well. This is a great picture from Moores Creek Watershed Association. We do a water festival there every year, and this teacher's picking up a fish. So she was having a good time. We do have a West Virginia Water Festival planning guide, and Autumn said that that is available for you to download. So it goes a little bit more in depth about what it takes to plan a water festival. It has a really nice timeline and checklist. And the different learning stations that we have at these water festivals are led by folks that are trained either in Project WET or they're experts in water in your community. So we pull in folks from different agencies. A lot of times our watershed groups themselves will present at their events. Sometimes we have stormwater utilities or drinking water utilities come in too. All of the stations are meant to be interactive, and we generally try to touch on topics such as the water cycle, groundwater, water quality, water conservation, and so on and so forth. So I'm a visual person, maybe you all are too. So in West Virginia, I'm just going to show you where we have water festivals at as of last year. And last year we reached about 2,800 students. So as you can see, they're pretty clustered around West Virginia, or Charleston, West Virginia, where I'm located at. This is where I have the strongest partnerships at. But in 2019, if you look at the green raindrops, you can see we're starting to go out a little bit further. We're hitting Wetzel County, Pocahontas County. So this is very exciting, and I'd like to see this continue across the state. So in 2018, I'll show you where we had workshops at, for example. So all of the red dots are where we had workshops in 2018, reaching 217 educators. And we also attend other outreach events too. So we reached about 2,200 folks that way too. So regarding our USA Project WET program, I have the results from 2017. We're still formulating our 2018 annual report. But across the U.S., we had 536 workshops. We hosted 110 water festivals. And at the end of each workshop, we give an evaluation, and that's where these figures come from. So 98% of folks that attended the workshop said their students will learn from Project WET. 95% said they acquired new skills. 92% said they intend to be better water stewards. So even if you think that you know quite a bit about water, and maybe you do, hopefully you do, there's still more that you can learn, and there's still ways that you can incorporate this into your program. So in 2017, 1.78 million youth were educated by the USA Project WET program, and that's a pretty nice number. So we have many supplies and resources that are available as well. One of them is the groundwater flow model. It's in your top right-hand corner. And this does a great job of demonstrating what is happening underground. So it's a great visual. It's a little heavy and cantankerous, but we do have those available. So if you need to use it for a week or a couple days, something like that, we can try to work out a schedule to get it to you. We also have Enviroscapes, which is featured on the bottom left corner. And this one is relating to non-point source pollution. So we talk about non-point source a lot here at DEP in the Watershed Improvement Branch that I'm part of. And this is a really great visual display showing how sediment and pollution goes down into our larger bodies of water and how a lot of it is from humans. So we have those available, and most likely there's more out there than we are aware of. A lot of municipalities own these as well, so you can always borrow them from them as well. We have other activity guides too that we can lend out. Pretty much any activity that is in the Project WET guide is available to you. So Healthy Habits, Incredible Journey, Macro Mayhem. These are very popular activity kits, but I can always work with you to try to build one for you, or I can lend one out to you. Another resource that I think is a little underutilized is discoverwater.org. And this is through Project WET. You do not have to be certified. You don't have to have a special login. You just simply type in the website and it's available there for you. So if you want to talk about the water cycle, but it's dumping the rain outside, you can have your students log in and do this. If you're going into a classroom to talk to them about the water cycle, you can always encourage the teacher to have their students log on and do these activities online first before you come in and talk with them. So it can be used that way as well. So this is just a little example of what it looks like. And again, it is free to the public. So check that out, discoverwater.org. And Bridger, our little dog there, he's featured all across the whole site. Other supplies and resources that we offer are activity booklets, and I think there's about 25 of them total, maybe more than that. I'm trying to get one for Appalachian streams so that we can plug in our headwater streams that are so important. So look for that down the road. Currently, there's some on wetlands, on flooding, lots of stuff on recycling coral reefs, on the ocean. Stormwater is one that's very popular with our municipalities. And then our current one, our newest one, is water, agriculture, and food. So I'll be promoting this at a urban farm conference here pretty soon. So that'll be fun. We also have posters, storybooks, and maps. So if there's a resource that we have already made for you, feel free to utilize it rather than try to make your own will. These booklets are only about $1 a piece too, and if you just need one or two, it is something that I can work with you to get for free. But if you need about 50 or 20 or something like that, you probably have to order them on your own, but they're very affordable. So who Project WET coordinates with? Essentially anybody that wants to coordinate with me. So again, if you're an educator of any sort and you're into water, then you're somebody that I would like to work with. And so we collaborate a lot with different federal and government agencies, with cities, watershed groups, certainly. We do a lot with the Girl Scouts and the Boy Scouts. And we have this new workshop, coming out for the preschool teachers. And we have 2 different workshops that we offer for formal and non-formal educators, K through 12. So my question to you is, how can Project WET partner with your organization? And if you have any questions for me, Autumn, do we have a couple minutes to take them?
Yeah, we have a couple questions that have come in, and if you have any additional questions, you can enter them into the question tab in your control panel. So the questions that have come in already. Can DEP provide us copies of the Project WET brochure? And that's from Piney Creek Watershed Association. They're interested in hosting training for Raleigh County teachers, but need something to get out to the teachers to determine interest. And I think if you look in your control panel, there should be a handouts tab. And if you click on the arrow, it'll drop a menu down, and there is West Virginia Project WET brochure that's available for you to download, planning a water festival, and then these slides are available. So you should be able to download them from the webinar. We'll also send out an email after the webinar with these additional resources, the recording and all of the handouts. So you can download them now, or you can download them when you get that email. And then the other question.
Can I go ahead and answer Piney Creek's real quick?
Yeah.
Yep. So if you all would just send me an email with your mailing address, I can send you some that are printed and folded, and some information that you can send out to your teachers. Feel free to send it electronically as well, though. But if you'd like paper brochures, just shoot me an email with your mailing address, and I'll get those out to you.
And then another question, a webinar participant wanted to know where the Berkeley County Water Festival was.
Yeah, we're still working out the details of that, and I don't have the contact for that event on the top of my head, but I can look it up. If that's something that you'd be interested in helping out with, then I think that she was looking for partners. I know that she had applied for a grant and was seeing if she had the funding to host the event or not. I think that's kind of where we're at. So that's a tentative water festival for right now.
Okay, so those are all of the questions that we have right now. If you have additional questions for Tommy, you can contact her directly, or if we have some time at the end, we can go through additional questions. So right now, I'm going to turn it over to Friends of the Cheat, and we have Amanda Pitzer and Beth Warnick.
Hey everybody, can you hear us okay? This is Amanda Pitzer. Does it sound good, ladies?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, great, thanks. So I'm Amanda Pitzer. I'm the director of Friends of the Cheat, and I'm sitting here with my colleague, our outreach and education coordinator, Beth Warnick. I've been here with Friends of the Cheat for 9 years, and Beth started with us in 2015. And we're going to take some time today to discuss 5, if hopefully we have time, to go through 5 events that we have worked on together over the last few years. We're going to tell you guys what we did, how we planned it, the resources we needed, and some lessons learned. But there's going to be a lot that we have to kind of gloss over. So please do not hesitate to reach out to us after this webinar as well. Of course, write your questions in the box, but if there's something that comes to mind, we are available to chat with you or exchange emails. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Beth, and she's going to tell you guys about the first event that we're going to discuss today, which is our Flood Remembrance Dinner. Take it over, Beth.
Hi, guys. This event actually, yeah?
Before you get started, can you accept the invitation to view your screen? We can't see it yet.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Do you see it?
Is it that thing?
Should be a little box, a pop-up box that says accept this invitation to view your screen.
Oh, it was on a different page. Can you send it again? Do you see
It just says that we're waiting to view your screen.
Mm-hmm.
No. Okay, screenshot. Sorry, guys.
Can you click that? Yeah.
Does that do it?
Sure.
I don't have that.
I'll try to send the invitation again.
Thank you.
Sorry, everyone. We're not the webinar experts, as you can tell. We might be good at planning events, but we're not great at technology sometimes.
Waiting to see.
Waiting to view Beth's screen.
We have a box that says waiting to view Beth's screen.
That's what
Yeah, so you should have a pop-up box that you have to click show my screen or accept.
Yeah.
No, that's webcam.
No, we're not getting a pop-up on them.
Okay, well, I have your slides here, so maybe I'll just,
You want to do it?
yeah.
Sorry, everybody. It's so strange. Well, Beth, start talking about the event. The slides are...
Autumn, whenever you're ready, we'll go to the second page.
Okay, so we should be able to see them now. Can you see them?
Excellent. Yep.
Okay.
All
Get
right.
away.
I'll just say next when you want to go to the next one. Is that all right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Sorry, y'all. So this was the first event that I ever worked on. This was my first assignment for Friends of the Cheat. And really we kind of just jumped on board with this because we wanted to be more involved with the community, remembering this huge event. This was the 30-year anniversary for the 1985 flood, which highly affected Preston County. And so there were a number of communities that were hosting flood events, and we wanted to stick our neck out there and have one of our own in Albright, which was just down the hill from our office at the time. So this really was not something where we were actively trying to get new membership. This really was just doing good for the community, bringing in presenters, and just giving back. So what we did is we partnered with a local church, and we decided we were going to have it be a free dinner. So we had some desserts that were brought in by some supporters, and everything else was cooked on site. We picked a place that had a kitchen. We advertised this through social media and newspapers. Now, we also got to put this on the reverse side of the Albright water bill, which sounds like a really strange place to advertise, but I think it was actually really effective. And we were able to do that because we planned this out. We talked to them at least a month and a half before the event so that they could get on the back of the water bill that was closest to the event. Next.
Next slide.
Autumn, sorry, next slide.
Trying to lift them.
Okay. So for resources, obviously we went with a place that we didn't have to pay for. And we had volunteers to come in and help with the cooking. This whole event only cost us $350. And when we first started planning it, we were happy at the idea of 25 people showing up, and we had 125 people come. So we actually ended up having a couple runners who were available, a couple volunteers that would run back to the store, buy more pasta and sauce or whatever we needed, and come back. So it's good to have a runner at any one of your events. We'll just throw that out there right now. And so it was a huge turnout, and we were really happy with that. We had really good press out of this, and we also invited a lot of we invited like Governor Manchin, and we sent out invitations to these people, and we actually had a representative show up and give a small speech. So don't be afraid to ask for the big dogs to attend even your small events, because that may pay off. And Amanda, is there anything you want to add?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate that it was a low-cost event with a big outcome. And oftentimes, as the person who has to worry about the bottom line, I'm always asking, well, what's the point? What are we going to get out of this? What is Friends of the Cheat going to get out of this? And this event really had no ulterior motive than doing something nice for the community, and it felt really good. So the next few events that we're going to talk about were more directed at recruiting members, raising money. This event was all about just doing something nice for the community. So go ahead and go on to the next slide, Autumn. So the next event that we'll talk about is our Come Meet the Cheat River Paddles. These events started really as a inauguration, like our first year of the water trail. And it started out small, really just a time for people to get together and paddle, particularly folks who hadn't been on the river before, who didn't know how to run a shuttle, didn't know anything about types of boats. So it was, that's how we got the name of the event, Meet the Cheat. So as the event evolved, we expanded to 2 different locations on 2 different weekends in a row, the first and second weekend of June. And when we expanded the scope, we really needed more partners. So not only do we partner with the local outfitters, but we partnered with the West Virginia Land Trust for the Tucker County version of this event. And they really helped us divide and conquer the registration process. That's one of the most challenging aspects, particularly for outdoor events, is you really need a solid list of people who have RSVP'd, and you need to be able to get in touch with those people. It sounds really easy, but keep in mind, last year we had over 320 people on just one paddle, and herding 320 people is really hard. So reaching out and working with the Land Trust and Blackwater Outdoor Adventures was a great solution. Go ahead on to the next slide, please, Autumn. So this event does take some resources. I see your mouse, there you go. This event does take some resources, particularly for food. We do like to feed people, so we had to rely on our volunteers who are part of our Water Trail Committee to solicit some food donations. We also purchased food from the Rollsburg Park for the Rollsburg event, and it was great. The locations were great because they're right along the river. So we took out at the Rollsburg Community Park, and the food was there. Everything was set up, which was awesome. For the Tucker County float, same thing. The paddle ends at the outfitter, where we have food and music and beer, which people certainly like. One thing that we have learned along the way is people really need help with parking and directions, no matter how many signs you put up. It's always great to have volunteers there to direct them, particularly at our event when we had, last year we had 320 folks. We really needed to be thoughtful about parking and the shuttles, the boat shuttles. We use volunteers for our registration and to pass out wristbands and to help with some of the food. So as far as lessons learned, one thing that we really, we thought we had dialed in, and last year the turnout was great, was we ran out of food. And no matter how much fun someone has on the water during the day, if they get back and there's no chicken wings, things can get ugly. So you really want to over-plan your food or have a good contingency plan. As Beth mentioned about the spaghetti dinner, you really want to have someone available to run to the store if you need something, if you need ice, if you need more hot dogs, whatever it is. You want someone laying in wait to go and help run errands. So this year, we'll probably reach capacity with these events. For those of you who, I'm not sure if anyone from I think Greenbrier, some other folks are on this call who have water trails, and I know a lot of the other paddles can get really big. Coal River, I think, has, I think 1,000 paddlers on their event. So 320 for us, that's a comfortable size. And I would encourage anyone, bigger isn't always better. So as you're creating events, really consider the experience you want people to have. And more people sounds like more money, but if the experience isn't good, then people won't come back. And ultimately, with our Meet the Cheat events, we want folks to have a good time on the river so they come back and paddle on their own. So you really need to be thoughtful about hospitality and directions and just being friendly. And I know that sounds obvious, but these events are stressful. So sometimes being nice can be hard. I will say that with the Meet the Cheat events, we did not turn over as many new memberships as we thought. This event was more about paddling and recreation and not as much about just Friends of the Cheat as an organization. So although we have these people tuned into our events and coming back, I can't say that many of them became members if they weren't members already.
I've got a couple things to
Yeah,
add to
go ahead.
that. One, we had an idea from last year that this event was only going to get bigger, and we were not quite sure what our capacity was, how many people we were going to be able to handle. So we really dialed back on promoting this event before it happened, which I know sounds backwards, but it's a good thing that we did, because by the end of this event, the facilities had been overrun. There was no place for anyone to park, and yes, the food ran out. So we did not have that last minute contingency plan. I will say that the people who showed up latest had been on the river for hours. So when, we didn't have anything for them, but at the same time, we also pretty much thought everyone was back. So there's a back and forth there. And a note about the new members, which we'll go into more in the next few slides. We did not go after those new members either. We had tabling things up, but we really were focusing on making sure people were having a good time. We would talk to them if they would come over to the table, but we were not pushing for people to come over and sign up for memberships. And we'll talk more about that coming up. So, Autumn, would you like to go to the next slide, please? Thank you.
All right, so our State of the Watershed events are relatively new. And as Beth just mentioned, the Meet the Cheat event as well as the dinner, it was more passive as far as memberships. Our State of the Watershed events are not passive when it comes to recruiting new members. So the background around this event is that it was really driven by my board of directors. They had a little bit of envy over some other events and reports that other groups were putting out. Friends of the Cheat had never really done an annual report. Cheat Fest is our big annual event, but there's so much going on at the festival that we don't really get to drill down into the specifics of our work. So the State of the Watershed event and accompanying pamphlet serves as our annual recap of what we've accomplished and what we're looking forward to the future. So this is our second, this fall was our second year that we hosted these events. The first year we did 3 locations, one in Cheat Lake, one in Kingwood, and one in Morgantown, a little spread around, hitting different demographics of people. And then this year we only did 2. We did one in Morgantown and then one in Kingwood. And we certainly learned some things about venue. So as far as planning, we looked at venues that were free, of course. We always want a free space. And we had a really good turnout at the Morgantown Brewing Company, known locally here as the Brew Pub. That's the top photo on the slide. The Brew Pub has a big open room. The acoustics aren't that great, but they have a nice stage. Their staff is used to events like this. And it also has an area where you can step away from the main room. So you can see everyone sitting in that main room looking at the screen, but they can exit and go to the bar, go to the bathroom, go play foosball, go talk to their friends. And we learned this year that style of venue where you have your presentation space, but then you have a breakout area as well as food is what our people want, at least. How do we know that? Well, we planned our Kingwood event this year at a really nice facility. We planned it at the Army National Guard's RTC Training Center, which is really nice venue. It has a big open air entryway and classrooms that are all, connected up. We had beautiful screens. The internet was fast. We had nice bathrooms, but it was very formal. It was like a classroom, and we didn't get a great turnout. And we talked to some people who had come prior, and we believe it was just the formal atmosphere turned some folks away. They want to learn about what they're doing, but they also want it to be a social event. So that's our people, that's our members and our supporters. Maybe yours are different, but you certainly want to take into consideration just comfort and people being comfortable in the space. So we learned a little bit there about venue. We also this year, next year in 2019, we're going to look at a venue that will also do a special food or drink special for us. We aren't going to get any money from it, but it would encourage people to come, have a meal, have a beverage, and that's kind of a special thing, one time only. Go to the Mountain Brew Pub and have your Friends of the Cheat burrito or whatever it is. So that's something we're going to expand on this year. So a little bit more about planning. Oh, yeah, no, you're good. That's fine. So a little bit about planning. We did reach out to a lot of partners the first year to come speak, where we had multiple speakers, and that really got a little too cluttered. So this year we slimmed it down, but we did invite kind of a local dignitary to introduce us. So we had our introduction, and then Friends of the Cheat gave our presentations. Of course, you need access to equipment and good sound. We did set up a table display, and we had volunteers to hand out those materials. This was not passive membership recruitment. This was very active membership recruitment. Several times during the presentation, we would throw up slides with our dogs, and the dogs had little bubbles, little speech bubbles that would say, "Have you become a member yet?" And everybody loves dogs, especially dogs that guilt you into donating money, and it worked. So this year we had about 20 between the two events, about dozen or a little bit more members sign up or renew. And it also is a very personal renewal experience. You get to stand there and talk to Beth, you get to ask questions, you get to pick out your hat or your t-shirt, and people like that. It's personal. So just quickly, lessons learned, that I think that these are pretty obvious, but practice your presentations with your technology. Do you need speakers? Do you need a microphone? Does the internet work? Don't wait till the last minute to figure that out, just like this webinar today. So the events have been a good turnout, and we're going to continue to tweak and improve them into the next year. So moving on, let's talk about snorkeling.
Okay, so the snorkeling workshops are very new to us. We debuted them in 2018, and we partnered with the U.S. Forest Service, who already has a snorkeling program and therefore has tons of gear that we were able to use, and the capacity to schlep them around. So that was a oh goodness. Anyway, we did advertise on social media and through newspapers. When we announced that we were going to do a day-long snorkeling workshop consisting of like 4 separate workshops, each about an hour long, and we opened it to the public through signup.com. But one thing that really helped with this, so that we weren't getting sporadic signups throughout the day, we also worked specifically with homeschoolers for one session, and then we would offer another session to like a 4-H club or an after-school explorers. So we were giving different times to specific groups to help fill that time. And so we wouldn't have, like, our morning session would only have 10 people in it, and then another would have 40. So all of that was well and good when we started it off, but as we'll go down to lessons learned, we ended up having to change things because our weather was not cooperating. So for the resources needed for this one, obviously we wanted to provide gear, but people also needed to have transportation to get there. We didn't have anything set up to bring people to where we were going to have the workshop. We printed off the fish and bug guides for identification. These were very simplistic, a picture of what you were going to see underwater, a couple bulleted points about what was interesting about that species, things along those lines. We would have educated volunteers, but this doesn't need to be, you don't need to bring in your experts. You know, if you have someone who feels comfortable enough to sit down with you in the days before the workshop and learn about these species and feel comfortable enough to lead a group of 3 or 4, that's fantastic. So you can rely on your normal volunteers, people who are involved with your group for this. And obviously you do, depending on how many people you're going to have and how many workshops you're having in the day, you need to have a system for cleaning and sanitizing this gear between groups. We're going to move forward with these snorkeling workshops. Actually, we're not going to, we may still partner with the Forest Service, but we also wrote a grant this year to go ahead and purchase this gear for ourselves. So we will be hosting our own. And as we move forward with these, we definitely like to pick an area where it is safe and easy for younger people of all ages, but mostly younger. Well, they'll be able to get in and out of the river easily, which we've been using. We ended up moving it to Horseshoe. If you guys are familiar with the Upper Cheat River Watershed, that's a tributary up there. And to Horseshoe Run, there's like a little park close by. We wanted to have it at the Cheat Fest site, but with the main stem, the water level can come up and down so quickly. And if there's a huge rain event, then it's going to be very, there's going to be a lot of
muddy. You can't see anything.
You won't be able to see anything. So we're still learning about this workshop, but I will say that it has been hugely popular. People who have not been affiliated with us at all have been coming to these snorkeling workshops. We got a bit lucky and had a couple people show up to some of the workshops that had a GoPro and took a very nice little video and put it together for us, which we then shared on social media and got an even bigger response. So we already have a lot of people geared up for 2019. And I would definitely emphasize that as you're doing registrations for this, you need immediate contact info, because these events can change at the last minute, just like we had where we had to change from the fest site to Horseshoe Run, which is almost an hour away. So we needed to get that information to the participants quickly so that they could decide whether or not they could change their plans and if they could get out there. Obviously, also for the lessons learned, it's helpful to have a place with bathrooms for changing and things along those lines. So that's our lessons learned on snorkeling workshops, and let's move on to the Cheat River Festival.
All right, so everyone's probably dying to know all the Cheat Fest secrets. And just to scare you off, the first thing I'll talk about is insurance and liability. Just to keep in mind, Friends of the Cheat carries a commercial liability insurance policy that for any event that's less than 500 people, we're already covered. But for an event like Cheat Fest, where we have between 2,000 and 4,000 people on our property for about 2 to 3 days, we do have to purchase special events insurance. And also for events like our downriver race, which is a paddle through the Cheat Canyon, whitewater paddle through the Cheat Canyon, we also procure insurance from the American Canoe Association for that event. If anyone has any questions about insurance or liability, they can follow up with me, because now we're going to talk about the fun parts of Cheat Fest. So the festival is our biggest fundraiser of the year. This will be our 25th festival coming up in 2019. And this event takes an army of volunteers. And I guess I want to explain a little bit how the festival even became profitable for Friends of the Cheat. And this is because in the very beginning, we had many, many generous people donating their time, including all of our musicians and bands. Only in recent years, really only in the last 3 years, have we paid for any of our bands. And that payment comes directly from a sole sponsor. So we have a sponsor that says we will pay for the band, and we usually pick out one act as our headliner, as our big act. And that is how we made money in the beginning. If you want to see the inner workings of our budget, I'm happy to share that with you, but let me just rattle off our greatest expenses for the event. Hands down, it's staff time. Friends of the Cheat has paid staff. Paying staff is expensive. Volunteers are free. The second greatest expense is our rentals. We pay a lot for porta potties as well as large tents and tables and chairs. We do have to rent some of those, little bit of infrastructure. Also, we pay for sound and lighting and security. So those kind of round out our top expenses. Keep in mind, Friends of the Cheat owns the property that the event is on, so we do not have to pay for property use or anything like that. As far as revenue, how do we make money at the festival? What do people pay for? We have two, sorry about the phone there. We have two sources of revenue that help pay for the event. The first being sponsorships. Last year we brought in $12,000 in sponsorships. This year we're aiming for 15. The other guaranteed money is our vendor fees. We have between 40 and 50 vendors. This year the vendor fee is $230. That's for Friday night and all day Saturday to come and set up a booth and sell your goods. Keep in mind, we're talking 2,000 to 4,000 people, so they get a lot of exposure, but many vendors don't make a whole lot of money. A lot of people come because they want to support the event, especially in rainy years. So that's kind of how we pay the bills. So you can move on to the next slide. So as I mentioned, we own the property. We hire a festival coordinator. Prior to this year, it has been a staff person. This year, we do have a contract person leading the fest. We're very strategic about our media. We've actually grown about as big as we can get at the festival site. We run out of parking, and we also don't want people to be crawling all over each other. We want kids to be able to run around. We don't want to just keep selling more and more tickets. It's about the experience, not it's about quality, not quantity. So we do very strategic media, and in a private event planning world, the rule is, spend about 20% of your budget on advertising. We spend less than 5% of our budget on advertising, and sometimes we do anti-advertising. But keep in mind, you still want people who don't attend your event to know about it, right? So we walk a very fine line between, advertising to get the word out and advertising just to get our brand out, if that makes sense. So a couple other highlights I wanted to mention. The festival site is also a really special place. It's where Muddy Creek meets the Cheat, so it's got a lot of personal Friends of the Cheat history and importance to that site. People love coming there. We also have a permanent date. Cheat Fest is always the first weekend in May. People remember that. Not everybody, but people mark it on their calendar, and it is a regular event for many folks. Also, just want to mention our volunteers. We have over 300 volunteers for Cheat Fest, including lead volunteers that take on large responsibilities, such as handling all the vendor registration, managing the volunteers, handling food, handling parking. We try and give leadership roles to those responsible folks, because once the event rolls around, the Cheat Fest coordinator wants to be available. The Cheat Fest coordinator doesn't want to have a long list of tasks, because they're the glue. They're holding it all together, and they're the one who needs to be available if the proverbial you-know-what hits the fan. I do have a couple stories like that I will save for not this webinar. You only hear the good stuff, but we have had some accidents. We have had some issues with underage drinking in earlier years. Dogs are always a big problem. I'm always the jerk telling people they can't bring their dog. So if you want to talk about that, feel free to reach out to me. So just finally, to wrap up, this is a quick overview. Just want to remind everyone, organization is everything, and to be very, leery when presented with opportunities that seem too good to be true. For example, everyone always asks us, why don't we sell beer? Why don't you sell beer at Cheat Fest? You could make so much money. And we probably could make money. However, I've been through the West Virginia ABC process of getting a beer permit. It's not easy. It's quite involved, and the liability rests on a sole individual, me. So we don't sell beer. We do sell wine. It's much easier to get a single-day wine permit. You don't make as much money, but it's easier to control. And the risk is not worth the potential reward for this event. So just to wrap up, It will rain, that's okay. That photo is our muddy festival grounds last year. We have had 2 years of really, really bad weather, and I mean mud pit. You can see there's no one standing in the mud. When we moved those garbage cans, there was still green grass there, but we had awful rain, so you need to be prepared for a bad year. To give you an idea overall, I guess as far as kind of a summary, over the last 6 years, this last 6 festivals, Friends of the Cheat's profit has been just over $200,000. That's average. We've had really good years and we've had really bad years. So you can't put all your eggs in the basket, in one basket. So you can see some Cheat Fest coordinator advice there on the right. Read those, take them in. And I guess one that I like to mention is ask for what you want. It's hard sometimes with volunteers to be direct, but the answer is no unless you ask. So don't be afraid to ask what you want. So with that,
I'd like to add in.
Yeah, Beth might have something to add.
Well, yeah, and we have there that this is a fundraiser with a membership drive, and since we're talking about recruiting members,
My bad.
this definitely is our number one, and we just, I mean, like she said, it's the 25th Cheat Fest, and just last year did we finally have the epiphany that, yeah, let's make a big deal out of getting members at Cheat Fest. So now it's a table, there are announcements coming on the stage in between the bands. We read off the new names of the new members, or you can come and renew. Make a big deal out of it, and it pays off for sure. We've gotten between 30 to 50 new members and renewals at each one for the past couple of years, and that is with rain and low attendance.
And tequila.
And yes, we may have had a bottle of something to warm you up since it was cold. But I really think that will go up in the future as we have a nice sunny weekend this year, and we'll probably have upwards of 100 new members and renewals that day. You just have to lead them to water in the oasis, basically. Give it to them, show them how to do it, make it easy. Give them customized merch, make it shiny.
Peer pressure works too.
Yeah, oh my gosh, did we have peer pressure? That's true. So, and we obviously have glossed over, there's so much that goes into this festival. We would love to talk to any one of you if you're looking to do something like this. I'm sure there are things that we have left out, and we'd love to have a conversation with you about it. So
yeah, but if there's any questions now, we're wrapped up. Sorry we went a little long.
Well, thanks, ladies. You guys gave very useful information. I don't see any questions. So I think we're done unless there's any last minute questions that come in. But you can always contact Friends of the Cheat on their website or through email, or call them if you have any additional questions. So thank you, everyone, for joining the webinar. We hope it was useful for you. Following the webinar, there will be a short survey, so please respond to that and give us your feedback so we can improve future surveys. Thanks, everyone, and have a great day.
Thanks, everybody, for being here.
Thanks, all.